Good evening and welcome to Quays News. I'm Christian Allen.
And I'm Tracy Kamalo. Coming up on tonight's show, a protest calls for justice against child sexual exploitation in Rochdale.
We are not going away. This is not going away. Accountability comes for you and it's coming right now.
We'll speak to our reporter Pete Johnson about the debate over new social housing at Salford Foyer.
Find out more about Padel, the newest fastest growing sport to come to Manchester.
Bitopia, a comic play about the bisexual experience, launches its UK tour in Sale this week.
Basically just being an awkward young person trying to figure out your place in the world.
And Christian finds out how walking basketball is helping mental and physical health here in Greater Manchester.
But first, a protest gathered in Rochdale Centre on Saturday, calling for accountability from the council and police. A review into child sexual exploitation in the area has found serious failings from the authorities. They're being blamed for not doing enough to stop organised crime groups from committing these crimes. A warning that this report from Kira Doody contains discussions of child sexual abuse.
No more. No more of my children being in danger. No more.
This was the sound of Rochdale Town Centre on Saturday afternoon as a crowd gathered in protest to call for more accountability from authorities in Greater Manchester. The protest was held in the wake of the findings of Greater Manchester Combined Authorities' review into Operation Span and child sexual exploitation in the Rochdale area. Malcolm Newsham is a child protection specialist who was appointed to carry out the review on behalf of the GMCA. He outlined the findings of the review in a press conference.
We have found compelling evidence that there was widespread, organised sexual exploitation of children within Rochdale from at least 2004 onwards. Very little disruptive or investigative action was taken to tackle these very dangerous individuals, and children were left to be abused by them and subsequently by their associates.
The review identified a possible 111 child victims and at least 96 individuals who potentially pose a risk to children. At the heart of the protest in Rochdale was Billy Howarth, co-founder of Parents Against Grooming UK and an independent candidate in the forthcoming by-election to become the Rochdale Member of Parliament.
25 years ago, 30 years ago, this went to the top. The GMCA report proves it. So now there has to be accountability.
I think it's time that these people are held to account so the survivors can move on with their lives.
In a press conference, the Chief Constable of the Greater Manchester Police, Stephen Watson, sent a message to the victims and outlined their plan going forward.
And it is on behalf of GMP that I offer my heartfelt apology to all of those victims whom we let down so badly.
GMP have since implemented a multi-million-pound investment into Rochdale's child sexual exploitation major investigation team and have made 135 arrests with 432 charges and 32 convictions. But for some, these offerings are not enough.
I want them to see us. We haven't forgot. We're not forgotten. And we won't give up in the fight for accountability. We are not going away. This is not going away. Accountability comes for you and it's coming right now.
A vote was held last week at Salford Council over a controversial planning application for more social housing at Salford Foyer near shopping centre. Residents attended to express their opposition, but councillors approved the application anyway. Peter Johnson went to the site and is now in the studio.
What exactly has been approved by Salford Planning Committee then, Peter?
So at Salford Foyer, there's currently capacity for 43 young women and pregnant women to reside, and the application was for the addition of 6 porter cabins to increase that capacity to 49. Now, this is in the context of Salford Council declaring a housing crisis last month due to skyrocketing demand for social housing in the city.
There's also been some disagreements, hasn't there?
Yeah, that's right, Tracy. So despite the many complaints of the residents that they voiced at the council meeting last week about antisocial behaviour such as theft and drug taking, the majority of councillors still voted in favour of the proposal on the grounds that Salford Foyer has actually been quite successful in terms of providing a platform for people to get their lives back on track. And also, given the housing crisis, they feel it's a drastic step that needs to be taken. And Councillor McCluskey from the Labour Party was one such person in favour of the proposal.
we're seeing a massive increase in people presenting as homeless. Now, we used to get about 9 a month, and we're getting 37 people a month presenting. There's simply not enough affordable housing for people to rent. We've got 6,000 people on the housing waiting list. The foyer is there to support young people who are homeless and has been very successful. Most people spend less than 2 years there before moving on to find employment and further accommodation.
The other side of the argument is, of course, that Salford Foyer is not fit for purpose because of the antisocial behaviour, which has even led to deaths. Now, there's also lots of social housing throughout Salford that's currently unoccupied that could potentially be far more suitable. I've got to say, I visited the site earlier this week and I do not see where there is room for 6 more porta cabins to be squeezed in. Councillor Walters is an independent councillor at Salford Council who was opposed to the application.
This particular facility is intended for pregnant women, vulnerable women. So I'm not against the concept of having this housing. What I am against is having this addition to Salford Foyer when Salford Foyer has been shown not to be managing crime prevention as it's required to do. People are reporting literally dead bodies being escorted out.
Thank you, Peter. There's a new way to make a racket in Manchester as the city has welcomed its first padel club. Reporter Dan Keane went down to Deansgate Square to see what they served up.
The fastest growing sport has arrived in Manchester. Located between the iconic towers of Deansgate Square is Manchester's first padel club. Club de Padel features 4 state-of-the-art panoramic glass courts which were handmade in Spain and imported to Manchester. They also include floodlights for playing both early doors and late at night. David Blake set up the new facility after falling in love with the sport on a trip to Spain.
We just thought, Manchester is such a famous, globally famous sporting city. It was like, how can it not have somewhere to play the fastest growing sport in the world? I'm pleased to say we've had, I think it's close to 4,000 players in 6 weeks. We want to get more people playing, and we want to convert as many people to the sport as possible.
But you might be wondering, how do you play the sport? Padel is a cross between squash and tennis, played with stringless rackets. The sport is scored in the same way as tennis, and the courts are slightly smaller and enclosed. Players are also allowed to bounce the ball off the back and side walls. Manchester-based Alberto Cubero is currently ranked the best player in the UK.
We didn't have paddle courts in Manchester, not even close. So when I wanted to play paddle, I was traveling to Huddersfield, Middlesbrough, Derby, London. And we're super lucky to have this amazing club in the city centre.
So how have people in Manchester enjoyed the sport so far?
Really enjoy it. I just work just beyond the courts over there, and I'm hoping to come down again soon.
It's a good way to socialise. First time playing, but I think I'll definitely be back.
Piccadilly Gardens is expecting a facelift as £25 million is being invested into its redevelopment. With that much money going into an area of the city that many people see as an eyesore, it's a controversial issue. Our reporters Adam and Emmanuel visited to find out more.
The rejuvenation of Piccadilly Gardens Pavilion through a £25 million redevelopment project has caused a cocktail of opinions. We interviewed members of the public to get their take on this new project.
What are your initial thoughts and feelings about the 25 million transformation of Piccadilly Gardens?
Mostly the amount of money is huge. 25 million is quite something.
In your opinion, what aspects of Piccadilly Gardens do need improvement the most, and how do you hope the redevelopment will address these issues?
Obviously there's people on drugs and stuff, and giving them a chance instead of funding a fountain that's not really going to improve anything.
In April 2022, plans to renovate the Piccadilly Gardens Pavilion, which was created by well-known Japanese architect Tadao Ando, were authorised. The renovation entails removing the roof that separates the building's 2 business units, which are presently leased to Black Street Coffee and Bonsik, and installing new lighting. In addition to the pavilion's modification, by the end of June 2024, Space Invader Design, Mancunian artist Lazarian and lighting specialist Artin will have finished a feature art installation made of glass, metal and LED lighting.
Now, did you know that February marks LGBT plus History Month? One man who does is Sam Danson, and he's taking his play Bitopia on tour across the UK. It all kicked off in Sale on Saturday. Alex Mackay finds out more.
Sometimes laughter can be the best way to highlight a serious issue.
and a new play hitting Manchester's theatres aims to do just that.
Recently I was particularly confused and I did one of them stupid BuzzFeed quizzes. It was titled, "What percent gay?" I got 0% because I lied all the way through.
Biotopia is a comedy that explores the highs and lows of the bisexual experience. The play's creator, Sam Danson, wanted to highlight some of the difficulties in coming out.
A lot of it is the shame that you get from being a young person, already finding growing up difficult, and then realising that you're LGBT, and that can be like kind of a big issue for you because you don't want that. Like, you know, I speak to a lot of LGBT people and they all say like when they first realised their sexuality, they were kind of like, oh, this isn't going to be me. I don't want it. You know, life's difficult enough as it is, kind of, without having this thing that makes me different.
Why did you decide to start your tour here in Greater Manchester?
Waterside and Creative Industries Trafford, who are part of Waterside, they were key in developing the show. They gave it its original commission. It premiered here back in May at the Pride in Trafford Festival, and so it felt very kind of logical to put it back here.
Did you find it challenging to explore those themes of sexuality, poor mental health?
Yeah, the first time I was writing those and performing them, it felt very exposing, and it's something that you have to kind of figure out if it's something that you're able to do at that time. You realise the hard way if you do something that's a bit too current or that you haven't dealt with.
And what did the audience think?
I found it really insightful and spoke to a lot of like my own experiences as well. I think very personal, had similar chats with my own dad, to be honest, and like about mental health. I think it's a big thing with masculinity, not being able to talk about it, and like finally having that conversation when you're an adult with your parent can be a big step.
Really enjoyed it, yeah, he was great.
Yeah, he was great. So much to remember, really, really good.
Great story, funny, moving.
This is my first time walking home with a guy, and I feel like a proud member of an exclusive club. I'm meeting the eye people as I walk past to see if they see, you know.
Biotopia is touring across the north through until summer.
The popularity of walking sports has really grown in the past 10 years, which was led by walking football. One walking sport that you might not really think about is walking basketball. Last weekend, Christian travelled to Manchester Academy to see how Manchester clubs were getting on.
How does basketball, known for its speed, agility and athleticism, work as a walking sport? Well, one club in Manchester is making a splash whilst keeping the spirit of the game alive. Here's club co-founder Steve Scrivener.
I think when we're talking about walking basketball, the drills, the skills, the whole ethos of basketball is still there, the coolness and the culture around basketball and the trainers, and there is a bit of a gap in the market, I think, for people who aren't 18, 20, 25, whatever, 30. Anything older than that, there seems to be a massive gap in that. So I think we're filling that, particularly in the Manchester and outskirts of Manchester.
According to Sport England's latest Active Live survey, over 1.18 million young people play basketball on a weekly basis. But what about adults? As long-time member Alex explains, the word walking could just as easily be swapped for accessible or inclusive.
Well, I think as soon as you put the word walking in front of anything, people are less fearful of the pressure and the exertion. And, if you're coming for the first time, and maybe, like quite a few people that have come to walking basketball, they haven't done a joint sport activity for a few years, maybe since they were younger. Instead of, going out and doing something on their own, a run or a jog, a bike ride, they can come and join in, and that walking word takes the pressure off.
The club welcomes anyone from local students to wily veterans, but there's one clear Hall of Famer from the team's past. Here's Steve again.
So I think members-wise, there's one that really just springs to mind who basically embodied everything which we did to walking basketball. Unfortunately passed away, but it's Colin Maguire. He was a guy who used to come, and he was 70-odd, but he would be, his humour that he brought, and, he'd miss shots and things like that, and we'd come up with, street names for him and stuff, and our memories of him will just still going on, and we're kind of doing this for him, I think, more than anything. So yeah, big up C Money.
But as team member Katrin emphasises, walking basketball is about having fun, regardless of whether you're chasing a hoop dream.
I think we can all do with a bit more movement, and I work from home, so not moving during the week much. So that was one of the aims, to get a bit of movement in. The people who are here are really friendly. Even the people you play with might be really experienced because they played earlier in their life, maybe before they were injured. So, but they're still super encouraging. Everybody's really friendly, and have a bit of fun. And I enjoy playing basketball.
That's all we've got time for today.
See you next time for more on Quays Radio.